Minority college students who major in STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math, earn at least 25% more than their peers who study humanities or education, according to one study. And yet the percentage of African American students earning STEM degrees has fallen over the last decade. The first ever STEM Festival, which takes place Saturdays, February 22nd, at the Albuquerque Convention Center, is looking to change that story. I sat down with members of the New Mexico Black History Month Organizing Committee to talk about the event and the importance of getting more minority students to consider STEM as they look towards college. We're here with Teresa Carson from Sandia National Laboratories, also Lieutenant Colonel Antoinette Gant, District Commander with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and Prentice Jackson, Program Manager with Intel Corporation. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for
An event coming up soon. Teresa, good to see you, by the way. It's been a lot of years. And you're still doing something that's very important. That is getting the idea of minority students better acclimated and into STEM education purposes. There's an event coming up we're going to talk about. Let's take it right from the top, though. Why is it important to get more African American young men and women and other minority kids into STEM education? What's the goal here?
Well, the goal is definitely exposure. We know for a fact that the top positions are going to be in that of STEM fields. And so we don't want to be left behind. So therefore, you know, our children needs to be as competitive as everyone else. And so having these opportunities to have programs like the STEM Festival that's coming up and all the other things that, for instance, like Sandia National Laboratory is doing as it relates to kind of STEM exposure is very critical. And for African Americans, especially here, we have such a small population here within Albuquerque. And so it becomes even more important to me. Like we have the our Hands-On Minds-On Technology program, which is really targeted toward African American children. But we have other programs as well that are targeted at other minority students, for instance, our Dream Catchers, as well as the Monos program as well. And so it's just very important that we make sure that everyone is represented.
Let me stay with you another quick second. Let's start with, we've got STEM. Let's start with the last, which is math, which is the foundation of all. And one of the things that it's become clear in a lot of studies, a lot of things you read about how students either excel at STEM or not, is the idea to get them involved in math quickly, early, young, middle school or younger. In your research, what does that do for a kid later in their chances of being a STEM, person, so to speak? Is it everything?
It is. It really is. I mean, because there's math in everything that we do. I mean, in our everyday life. And so, by giving them that advantage and them being proficient at math helps to open many, many doors for all children.
Thank you. And there's something in this for Sandia as well that we'll talk about in a quick second. But there's something also in this for Intel, isn't there, Prentice?
Yes.
I mean, you guys have done a lot of interesting work working with kids at this age we're talking about to get them on the path for STEM. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, so locally we have 3 Intel computer clubhouses that we actually focus on the STEM. And the nice thing about the computer clubhouses is that they're in neighborhoods, underrepresented minority neighborhoods. So we're actually putting the clubhouses where they can provide the most service and also encourage the most minorities to pick up the STEM fields. And the Bernalillo Computer Clubhouse will be at the STEM event on Saturday.
Ah, good deal.
Yes. So we definitely want to really encourage all students to, one of the goals that we have at Intel is that we want to inspire all students to get involved and pursue STEM careers at a young age.
Interestingly, as I read it as well, it's a long haul to a STEM a degree, depending on what your track is. PhD can be a long time. Postdoc work, you get another year after that. It's a long time before you can get to the market, so to speak. What do you think you're accomplishing with these clubs, so to speak? Is there something extra beyond learning that you're giving these students that'll sort of bulletproof them for later in life?
Yeah. So we're providing them that support system, and also that that we're changing the image of what STEM students look like. Back in the day, I'm a little bit older, so back in the day we we had the average science or engineering, they had the pocket protector and the glasses. Now we want to make STEM cool. So that's why we want to have the computer clubhouse, Intel computer clubhouses in the neighborhood, and really change that perception. So you have a network, a community of students that are learning and interested and get motivated with STEM.
Right.
The other thing that we found out too is that we have the Stay With It program that Intel is a sponsor of, where we actually, when you look at the data, you have 14%. The studies show that majors in the undergraduate school education that are in the STEM fields. And one of the things that we found out when we look at the studies and the data too is that at that 14% rate of the students that are taking STEM, you have a 40% attrition after the first year. So the Stay With It program is geared to, again, provide that community of networks of students that can pull together collectively. And the StayWithIt.org, they actually provide resources that will enable students that are in the STEM fields to come together and create their own communities to support each other.
That's right, and that seems critical, Lieutenant Colonel Gant, because it seems to me, one of the things I was reading about is one of the problems inside that 40% rate, Prentice was just talking about that dropout, is isolation. A lot of times an African-American young man or young woman is the only African-American in their peer group in these study programs, and creates a very big difficulty for a lot of folks, which contributes to that. Did you find that as well when you were coming up through your education, that isolation was an issue?
Well, actually I didn't. I graduated with a civil engineer degree from Purdue A&M University, which is a historically black college in Texas. So everybody was there for the same purpose. And at that point in time, Purdue was known as one of the top schools that actually produced engineers. So we had groups ourselves internally that actually met to ensure that we were all getting it. You know, if you didn't understand the C COBOL or whatever was going on, or the networking from the electrical side, there was a friend that actually knew that piece of it. Or if somebody didn't know the statistics, there was another, friend that actually knew that portion. But the goal was that everybody actually understood and was going to be successful in being an engineer.
Sure. Peel back just a little bit if you could and talk about your early days, meaning I'm curious when you knew yourself, or maybe your folks knew. Fifth grade, sixth grade, somewhere around there?
You know, for me, it was not that early. I grew up in a house where my mother was a biology, chemistry, and physics teacher, and so I knew I wanted to go in the science field. But what happened was one of my mother's students actually worked for the Corps of Engineers, ironically, and that's who I actually, am a district commander for. And she came and she talked about what she did as a civil engineer. And the biggest thing that struck me was that it was making a difference in the community. And so from that standpoint, I said, I'm from a small town. I could come back and actually provide something that they haven't ever seen before. And so from that, I decided I'm going to be a civil engineer. Did I realize a civil engineer in the military? Maybe not. That was not in the plan at the time. But it's amazing how we go on past that. We didn't know for ourselves we're going to be, but have ended up being a great success.
Funny about plans, isn't it?
Definitely.
You never know. Teresa Carson, let's pretend there's some young people watching the show. They see this group, they want to be involved, there's the event. But when you think about a career path, you think about your life and how you fit into the world. I appreciate what Lieutenant Colonel Gant just said. You have to kind of see yourself in a place in the world, to have confidence, right? To feel like you belong there in a certain capacity. Is that in fact what this event is trying to get at as well?
It really is. Not only with regards to just having the opportunity to meet others who even look like you. With regards to in these particular fields.
No small thing when
that is not a small thing.
3% of the state. So,
exactly. So that's really, really critical. And so, so we will have a career STEM panel that will be there, and they'll be talking about their particular journey with regards to their various STEM fields, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, varying kinds of scientists, to let them know that they did it and you can do it too. And so, and that's really critical for our young people to have that opportunity to meet and talk with others that have made that journey and has been successful.
Let me jump back over to you, Lieutenant Colonel Gant. Something you just mentioned. When you went to a historically black university, did that, a lot of brothers and sisters don't get to do that. So they don't get to stand in front of teachers that look like them. Was that a critical piece of your growth as well, as being able to see teachers that looked like you, so to speak?
I think it helps in any journey that you're actually taking, because they are there to help, to encourage you. What I didn't mention is I actually got my master's from the University of Missouri Science and Technology. So there again, I'm in a position where I am in a place where people don't look like me, and I am one of the very few. But being at a historically black college, to get my foundation allowed me to know and feel that no matter where I am, I'm just as competitive. I can actually do anything that anybody else can do. And it is not about skin color. Sure. It's about being able to know that you have the skills and ability to perform.
I like that confidence. That's what it takes in this world, doesn't it? And that's where Intel comes in too. You guys are building confidence when you talk about those programs that you're doing.
Yes. One of the things that we, at Intel, we want to have the students that are in STEM fields have that critical thinking and problem solving and also collaboration skills. All of those things at a young age gives you the confidence to really pursue that STEM field and studies, but also confidence in life. Some of those things that, especially when it comes to critical thinking and systemic thinking, those are things that, yes, you need for STEM, but they help you in your life as well.
That's right. And that's going to be for everybody.
Yes.
No matter what you're doing for work, those two things you just talk about, it doesn't matter. If you're an artist, you need to have that.
Yes.
So, absolutely. We just got a couple of minutes left on this, but Teresa, I'm curious, as I mentioned in our setup to this, the numbers are actually falling the last decade. There's been a lot of activity. I won't expect that to hold. I think efforts like this are going to actually make those numbers go up. But it's going to take a while, isn't it?
It is going to take
It's going to take just a little bit. Let's talk about the commitment particularly for New Mexico, and some of the barriers. What are some of the barriers that you see, specifically to New Mexico, that we need to overcome here for minority kids to get into STEM fields?
I think that one of the barriers is just sometimes the way we think about careers.
Okay.
We have a tendency sometimes of thinking that some of the better jobs are, being a lawyer, or an accountant, those kinds of things. And, and that holds true for me as being a business professional myself. But because of the fact that, we are a nation of innovators. Right. And therefore, we've got to change our mindset with regards to the new fields and STEM is not new. However, they are going to be our top fields. And, with regards to all the globalization that we currently have and, and the nation's problems that we have to solve. And STEM is a part of our everyday life. We need to definitely encourage our students and young people to go into these STEM fields and also to take a hard look at it. And like I had shared with you earlier, I don't think it's ever too early to start getting children exposed to STEM fields and just activities related to STEM so that they can start developing those skills and those competencies as they relate to problem solving and critical thinking.
Let me ask you a question, and maybe for all you guys, it's becoming a thing in some parts of the world to get kids as young as second grade to start coding, just right away, just before they even know any better, that this is nerdy or not, just to make it natural. What do you think of something like that for New Mexico, like that early, even given all the political stuff we talk about, education, early childhood reading, all that kind of stuff? Is that too aggressive for New Mexico in your review? Is that something we should pursue?
I do not think so. I think that we pursue it. I don't think anything is too aggressive because I think other countries are doing it. We should be doing it too. So,
would you agree with that, Brenda?
Yes. One of the things I wanted to say here is that Intel, we definitely support coding at a young age. We actually, when we go to conferences and we have our educational content, which we actually have Intel programs and content that helps teachers develop the skill for coding.
Yes.
So one of the things I wanted to mention too, as far as the educational STEM programs, is that Intel actually has content in all 50 states related to STEM. Wow. We are a big supporter in education. Over the last 10 years, we've actually invested over $1 billion in supporting education services for the world. Intel is a global company, and we actually are doing these type of coding, and the computer clubhouses that I mentioned earlier, they're global. They're not just U.S. centric. We are a global company, so that's one of the things that we focus on, because we want to give our youth the skills they need to solve the global challenges. We need that. They need that to be successful. We need that to be successful as a society. So we do have that global approach, and those are a couple of things that we have.
And that goes to your point about being a change maker in the world, in your neighborhood, in your right? It's important.
I wanted to bring one of the things that we do at the Corps of Engineers is in April there's Take Your Child to Work Day. You started our being Take Your Daughter to Work, but we incorporated Take Your Child to Work. And we even start as young as kindergarten. I mean, we have some babies that actually come as well, but we take that opportunity to develop activities for each one of those areas and those age groups to stimulate their brain, to get them to actually see, oh my gosh, I'm actually doing, you know, something, and get excited about it. And there again begins the building of, you know, making the engineers, the biologists, the mathematicians that we have today. So it does, as Teresa has stated, it doesn't matter what age. I think we start as early as we can in getting them to just feel and understand that they have the abilities and stimulate that brain to doing things that are kind of outside of the box that some people just don't normally do.
I appreciate that. Just bringing a kid into the room, as they say, is a big deal. It is. It's all emotional intake at that I can belong here.
Yes.
I can be okay here. I can function here. One more plug for the event, and we got to run. But you know, this is very exciting. So when, where, and how can people go? Can anybody go to the event?
Anyone can go. It's open to everyone. It's going to be at the Albuquerque Convention Center on Saturday, February 22nd. It will start at 8:30 and it will end at 3.
That's a good long day.
Yes,
I really
it's a wonderful day.
I like it. Excited.
That's right. That's
excited.
right. Teresa Carson from Sandia, thank you for coming. Lieutenant Colonel Antoinette Gant, District Commander of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and Prentice Jackson, your program manager with Intel. Thank you all.
Thank you.
It's going to be a great event.
It's good to see you.
It's going to be annual, isn't it, by the way?
We're going to
make it there.
Okay. I say that to say maybe we'll sit down and do this again next year.
That would be great. We look forward to it.
Fantastic. Absolutely.
All right.